Happy Sunday. It is March 24th. I am Krista Nicole Mann, and I am the owner of this channel. And I am excited to be on here with you all today. I help Black women find their authentic selves, their true authentic selves, through all things creativity. And my channel talks about various things like faith, um, what's pop culture, what's in the news, what's happening now, anything pertaining to us Black women, and using experiences, my own personal experiences as well. So I am excited to be back on because we have a stacked show today. So as usual, I am making sure I am on because sometimes StreamYard be trying to play me. But I'm gonna share this to my platforms so they can watch. Um, Give me 1 second, guys. But for now, or gals, for now, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel if you want to keep up with all the things that I talk about. I had an interesting past couple of days. My one short about diversity and inclusion being funded has hit over 3K views, and I had a little bit of nasty comments, but it's all good. That's what happens. That's what happens when you're on the right path with what you're talking about. Everybody's not going to like you when you speak out. And you speak things that ruffles some people's feathers. I tend to do that this whole year and the end of last year. So what we're going to talk about today is something that I had came across over the weekend, and I wanted to talk about it from a perspective of being a Black woman because Black women are not necessarily looked at as being feminine. We're always looked at as being strong or being the backbone of whatever we're going through or whoever we're around. And I wanted to talk about femininity because as I am growing into my womanhood, which I am 34, I'll be 35 this year. I'm really enjoying it. I could say for the first time ever, I'm actually enjoying the growth that I'm experiencing because that's what it's all about. We get older, we go through more experiences, and as womanhood, so much has been said about it, so much is currently being said about it. I don't know how you feel about femininity, but I had came across this interesting YouTube, and this woman wasn't actually Black, but that didn't matter in the case of what she was actually talking about. And she was talking about operating within your femininity and your daily task and everything that you do in life. And she talked about how, when you do that, you are more in sync with the rhythm of life, and how we in Western world are taught to not be feminine, to actually compete with men. And she made some good points about that and how it throws us off. And me personally, I have in the past and sometimes still have this, I'm highly driven, right? So when you're a highly driven woman, you don't notice sometimes that you are competing with the big dogs. Like, you just look at life like that. And it was interesting that she brought this up about a lot of women operating in competition with men, and how we're actually not supposed to. We're supposed to be like creative beings as women. And God made us to create as women, because guess what? We multiply men's seed. We multiply everything that comes through our hands. And in that case, with a baby, obviously, where it comes through, but we multiply everything. We could multiply things from scratch, like from nothing. And she was talking about how men aren't necessarily built like that. They stay in their head and they execute whatever they execute, but it's very narrow-minded, to the point where they need women. And this is why this conversation is so important, because there's so many podcasts, there's so many broadcasts, just talking in general, TikTok, Instagram, you name it. They're all speaking about men and women being against each other. But I truly, truly, truly feel, if you as a woman understand that you were placed here to create, you wouldn't necessarily be all caught up in what men are doing. And you would know what to look for when it comes to a man. That's the catch 22. So I was excited when I saw this, because I have been exploring my Black femininity, and it has been a space that has been uncomfortable, and it's been a space that has taught me a lot. And as women in general, we like to talk a lot. We like to talk. Sometimes we like to talk too much, and we talk ourselves out of staying in our role, staying in our lane. And specifically in the Black community, when it comes to Black women being around each other, having a camaraderie, we are taught in the Western world to compete against each other. Whether you want to agree with me or not, I know wholeheartedly I've had experience upon experience upon experience, not with everyone, but there were just some huge things in my life that I took serious, or whether it was like getting a job, an opportunity, outside of a job, just you name it, something that will shift or change your life. If there was someone there with this mentality, it definitely put a damper on the experience, because you felt like you had to fight these particular people. That's how I felt. And they just so happened to be Black women that looked just like me, but they may have been intimidated, they may have, I don't really know, but it did damper the experience, not just for me, but a lot of people, a lot of other people. And sometimes we don't know what's going on with people. But I feel Black women do take upon themselves to not tap into more of their femininity. And I think I brought this book up on one of my lives. It's called, because I just bought it not too long ago. I purchased a book, and the author, she was on EYL, Earn Your Leisure, and they were talking about business endeavors. She was coming from the corporate world, but her book teaches you how to do business like a lady. Oh, here it goes. Erica Pittman. And her book is What Mommy Never Told You, and A Woman's Guide to the Next Phase of Life. And so I've been reading this book for a little bit, and again, here it goes. It goes away really quick, but it's really teaching you how, like, she has this chapter, Tap into Your Femininity, and she really explores, like, or breaks down, like, what it means when a woman like doesn't have a father, especially Black women, like a lot of them in these areas or big cities. Sometimes they don't grow up with their dad. Sometimes they're raised by their grandmothers. They don't have their mother either. So it's really books like this and podcasts and things that I've been listening to about womanhood. Another podcast is Hardly Initiated. I think that's what it's called. They had Dr. Cindy Trim. She's a well-known just speaker, leader in the church world and outside of the church world. But she was on a podcast recently and she talked about like how to be a woman and not be moved by things of the world or men or people being jealous of you or anything. Like you just have to move like a woman in a sense of find out how you've been created, find out what you're supposed to be responding to and what you're not supposed to be responding to. And I feel like sometimes, me personally, even as a Black woman, I feel like I have to save everybody, like this savior complex. And where did that come from? Definitely generational first. I have a lot of women in my family that are like tough, like I can't even tell you when the last time I had a hug from any of my aunts. Talk to them, and they're hard. Like some of them are hard. And they're just not affectionate. They don't have that nurturing side. And I'm just being honest because the fruit of that has trickled down to other people in my family that they don't have that either. And sometimes we just let life go by so fast that we don't even realize like how we're acting, how we're responding to life, what we look like, what we sound like, who we're hurting, who we're putting a positive effect on. So we don't think about these things sometimes as women when we're trying to play the role of a man, or we're stuck in our head all day. So back to the original podcast, one of the things that stood out to me that she said about being feminine is that when you are stuck in your head all day, she said you're actually more masculine than feminine. Let's let that breathe. Let's let that breathe. Okay, so I'm gonna repeat that. She said when you are in your head all day. So let's break that down. Like, let's say I'm a thinker. I think about stuff from the time I get up to the time I go to bed. But if we don't release that, that's what she was saying. If we don't release that as women, if we don't like literally either journal, execute it, get it out of our head, we will walk around as if we're like in our thoughts all day, and that's more masculine than anything, because it actually was an aha moment, because there are men that I'm around where they stay in their head all day and you might not even know what's going on with them, but they're in their head processing what they're going to execute. And then it's like there's no in between. It's not like, oh, I'm gonna sit down and journal. I'm gonna sit. That's Men don't do that. They just want to get to it. Women, we're the ones created differently. So we sometimes think we could just like keep going like just like the men, and then that leads us to burnout. I'm not diagnosing anyone when I say these things, so don't come back to my channel and be like, you told me. I'm just telling you some certain scenarios that could possibly happen. If you are a person that none of this happens to, great. But I was like, wow, I had an aha moment when she said, when you stay in your mind all day, you're actually tapping more into being masculine. And the amount of people that I talk to that are women that stay in their head, This is something that I've been preaching. I've been trying to tell people, have a creative outlet. This is the whole reason why I started the channel, is because I didn't want to just show me like, creating all the time and then not give you any substance of how to get to that point. Because when I would go and do classes like for women, and they would be in the paint class, like overwhelmed, stressed, like, I don't know what I'm doing. What do we do next? My picture is ugly. And I would be like, we haven't even got to the second part yet. Like, I haven't even told you everything. And it was becoming a pattern. And I was like, okay, it's okay to have a creative outlet, but at the same time, everyone is not there to just pick it up and do it. It's a process for some people, because their childhood traumas are in the way. Trauma from adulthood is in the way. All these things are in the way of you just freely creating. And so it goes back to the femininity. Like, if you're not in sync with that, you have to think or question, what is blocking that flow? What is blocking the flow of me being creative? And I've had to personally fight. There was a time, I can't even pinpoint when, but I got off and out of balance. Like, I'm being transparent here. I got out of balance. I can't tell you the year or the time, but I think where I can pinpoint it, I started being around a lot of women they live in fear. They like, they were very cautious about their next steps, when it came to even simple stuff, not just like making money or business things. It's like, you could tell them, oh, well, just journal. And they'll be like, well, I don't know, I'm gonna have to pray. And I'm not making fun of anybody, but I'm just saying, when you're constantly around that, that's going to be you as well. Like, when you're constantly around an environment of people that are and anxiety, filled with depression, oppression, they operate different. They don't really operate. They're actually not moving. It's not a flow. So it becomes a blockage in your life as well. And that's what I was experiencing. Like, a block was taking place, and I was just kind of molding and shifting into who they were, because I would stop myself from that free flowing creativity that I had beforehand. But then there was like a block. And we get creative blocks sometimes. So I don't want you to feel bad if you are in that space of having a creative block. But when I say I had a block, it was like for everything. Like, it was a time I wasn't even writing. And that's like, you know, I couldn't pick up nothing and that would fulfill, or just, it would just be like a block. So today I wanted to talk about that because I thought that was so powerful. Like, we have to stop just thinking in our head. We have to get these things out. It doesn't matter where you're at. That's another excuse that we try to make, like, oh, well, I'm not at home. Carry a little notebook in your purse, like one of them little flip notebooks, and write some ideas down. If you get inspired by anything while you're out, just like jot it down when you get in the car, or during a time where you can pull it out. But that all has to do with femininity. And it's time we get back to the basics when it comes to femininity, because we want to be so like, oh, oh, oh. And it's like, that's not how God created women per se. We were Yes, we were to work. We are created to work. We are created to do things. But, we got to let men be men. There's a certain point that Black women have to let men be men, and there are circumstances where you have to be both. I get it. I understand. I might not be in your shoes, but I understand, and that's all that I could do. But if you don't have to, though, you have to take some time to think, okay, why am I moving or leading in this way? I know for me, a lot of it stemmed from having inconsistencies with my father. He was an alcoholic, and he wasn't a bad dad. He actually was like heavily involved. But at the same time, I was seeing two different people consistently my whole life. Like, he was drinking by the time I was born. So I was seeing two people my whole life. So it would be a sober, then it would be a drunk at night. Sober during the day, drunk at night. Sober during the day, drunk at night. Then the weekends, depending upon what was going on, he might have been drunk the whole day. So when you're seeing that inconsistency, you take it upon yourself as a daughter, like, you're not trying to be a burden. This is my experience. You're not trying to be a burden. You don't want to bother, anyone, because there's enough going on. Especially when it came to finances, I didn't never want to like ask for anything because stuff was always going on. And we've worked through this. And I've told my mom, like, my dad, passed, but I have told my mom, like, some of the things that, I noticed with doing the inner work. And it's sorry, the lighting is shifting. The sun is going down. But I've told her some things that I have uh had revelations about. And I was like, that's where that came from. So I'm excited to explore more. Let me see if I can read you something from. Okay, so I'm gonna read you this passage from some of this book. I hope that you get it. Again, it's Erica Pittman, and it's What My Mommy Never Told You: A Woman's Guide to the Next Phase of Life. By observing my grandmother, mother, and aunt while growing up, I became very clear about femininity and sexuality. Each of these three women were all working professionals who had successful careers. Watching how they operated in the world and how the world responded to them has always intrigued and inspired me. I saw the power in their presence and how they harnessed that influence to achieve their goals. They weren't proud or boastful, but powerful nonetheless. They used grace, poise, manners, and patience to serve them well over the years. My grandmother was a middle management executive. My mother was a manager for the New York City Department of Education, and my aunt was an auditor for the National Teachers Associates Life Insurance Company. I often watch each of them and each I often watch each of these incredible women get dressed for work, and I observed their demeanor and the way they carried themselves. My grandmother and mother were early risers who usually started their day at 5 a.m. As a small child, I would wake up early and walk around the house following my grandmother while she got ready for work. After she put on her makeup, set her curls, and got dressed in her silk blouse and wool suit, we would sit at the table and eat breakfast together. My mother took after my grandmother, um, as she too always started the day by spending quality time with me. We would sit at the table and eat an awesome breakfast together that my mother lovingly prepared. Even on the days when I was off from school and did not wake up early, my mother would leave pancakes in the toaster oven for me along with the sweetest notes. They always made quality time for family while simultaneously excelling in their careers. So that's one of the passages from the chapter 3, Tap into Your Femininity. And she has femininity and sexuality are equally powerful, but distinctly different. And I wanted to read this too. She said, young women are exposed to femininity and sexuality at opposite levels. While femininity is less apparent in everyday life, sexuality is thrown in women's faces constantly. Sexuality is rampant in advertising, social media, entertainment, and more. There is an overexposure to sexuality because sex sells, and therefore it has also overshadowed femininity. For these reasons and more, young women are not being taught what femininity truly is. As a child growing up in the 1980s, I saw firsthand women were encouraged to suppress their core womanliness in the business world. So um she goes into, this is why it's a good book, because she goes into like how as business women, particularly black, because a lot of black women had to work. She grew up without her father, not knowing her father. He wasn't in the household. She grew up with her grandmother, aunt, and mom, and they had to work. So there's a lot of women that have to be in that role, and it's hard for them to decipher what is femininity and what is sexuality. And for black women, we're overly sexualized. It's not a lie. You can go look at us up now. What do they show about black women? And it's always, we got our whole body out. Nothing is, no respect per se when it comes to who we are. It's always about our looks. We don't have, long enough hair. We don't have eyelashes. We don't have, our lips are too big, but then yet, people like Kylie Jenner can make lip kits. Make it make sense. And they can be praised for their femininity. So these are things that I could talk about all night, but let's get to the next topic. And I wanted to roll right into and ask my audience, do you think being multifaceted is a hindrance to Black women, or do you think that it's helping us? So, upon reflection, where this question is coming from, upon reflection about all the Amanda Seals, Candace Owens hoopla that's been taking place, because I call it hoopla because they've just been like reporting so much that at this point, yeah, it's a joke. But with reflecting, with who getting past, like, whether you like Candace, whether you like Amanda, whether I even like Candace or Amanda, getting past that though, specifically both women are multifaceted. Let's look up that definition because I want to make sure y'all know what that means. And hopefully maybe I could put it in the comment section, because I don't think I can on so multifaceted, when you see like people being that, it really parallels to the saying jack of all trades. And there's a lot of talk about that's a good thing to be in a world like we're in right now. And it's a good thing, but is it good for Black women? That's the real question, because we don't necessarily get oh, it put it in there. Good. Okay. So, multifaceted means having a variety of different and important features or elements. And I feel Black women don't necessarily get praised for being multifaceted. It's not that we need to, but I do notice other races like kind of get more shine, light shine on their, multi-talent, multifaceted. And I hate to go here, but you kind of see that like within, especially the arts. If someone wants to cross over, that's a Black woman, maybe they want to switch from acting to the director, they don't really get like a lot of coverage about that, or why do they want to do that. It's kind of just said, and then people move on. Now if there was like like I did the story on Gwyneth Paltrow, if she woke up tomorrow and said she wanted to direct a movie, I bet you bottom dollar there would be like 15 articles. It would be breaking news on Good Morning America, all these things. So I wanted to talk about this because a lot of us have so many great things that we do, and we do it in like with natural, it's just natural to us. Some of this is natural gifting to us, and we move just doing, we could do two, three things at the same time, but is it hindering us? And are we even benefiting from these things? And I remember taking an entrepreneurship class, and the teacher was like talking to someone, and they was like, I do this, I do that, I do this and that. And the lady, like the teacher, stopped her and was like, yeah, but creatives are broke. And I was like, I would never forget her saying creatives are broke, because and then she went and broke it down, and she said like, when you uh create so many things, you cannot focus on one. And thank God, I want to thank God right now that I put in the work for one of the things that I was gifted in, because it opened so many like other doors. But if I wouldn't have focused on just the one thing for a certain amount of time, I do wonder like, would other things have transpired? And now I'm doing things that has nothing to do with what became a master at. But it's like that took so much patience, time, and understanding. I mean, it was times that, I wanted to give up. It was times that, no one was buying what I was creating. It was times that it was just low. It was low energy. Low flow, low everything. And so when you get to those points and you can persevere over it, shout out to Love Perseveres. I have it's a clothing line. I have the hoodie on right now. But when you persevere over those like mishaps, those hiccups, it's empowering. And you're kind of just like, and you finally, and then stuff just finally starts aligning, and you're like, yes. But then you question like, was me doing too much hindering? Because I started adding things and trying and testing things out, and it really wasn't, I'm gonna be honest, it really wasn't benefiting me. But I think, here's my synopsis. I think that you should master one thing and then get to the point where you keep those other things, and you work on them as well, but you're not rolling them all out at the same time. I think you should keep some things like behind the scenes, and not um try to roll everything out at one time, and you will save yourself from failure upon failure. We all have to fail, but you will save yourself some stress and other things. So Some of the synonyms of multifaceted, let's look at them. So some of the synonyms is all around or all round. Got ads in the way. Able, accomplished, all purpose, conversant. What does that mean? Oh, experienced. That means experienced. Let's see. Skillful, talented, variable, functional, oh, well, this is a bad synonym of it. Multifaceted, ambidextrous. Wait, let me see how this sounds. Ambidextrous. Oh, okay. So that's a bad synonym to multifaceted because it says insincere. And you know what? That is true because when you are sometimes you're multi-talented and you're just going, you don't care what people's feelings are. You're not concerned. You're just trying to get to whatever you're trying to get to. You're just trying to accomplish. And sometimes you could be insincere. But back to the multifaceted, there are a lot of Black women that are multifaceted naturally. And we all personally have to question ourselves, are we doing this to prove a point to someone or people that said you would never be anything? Or are you doing this because you actually want to share your gifts and talents with the world with no, motive, no nothing? It's one thing if you're doing that, but if you're doing it to prove people wrong and try to like really outwork them in with your heart not right, that's just not why you should show up multifaceted. um hello. So I wanted to talk about that because, in my life, in certain parts of my life, being multifaceted did not benefit me. Now, in my life, it's actually benefiting me because I played it smart. What I did was, like I said, I worked on one thing to master. I mastered that one thing. I think we move on too quick from certain things sometimes. Like if you want to yeah, they hate us because um I think we move on too quick sometimes from certain talents that we have, and we don't perfect them to the point where they actually are done in excellence. And I'm not talking about Black excellence, but I'm just saying in general, like we should take time to master something. I've known a lot of people that did not take the time to do that, and they were so mad at everybody because they wanted to rush them to purchase something, and they didn't put their all. Um, yeah, yeah, um, yeah, there's some narcissistic Black women. Yeah. Well, I'm gonna do a whole episode about that because my mom's book is out, and I'm gonna have her come back on about that. But yeah, so that's the multifaceted. So the next one I want to talk about self-funding our projects, our diversity and inclusion products or projects as Black women. My mom's book is The Hidden Signs of a Narcissist. Let me see if I could put in the comment section. You go back on my last couple of episodes, she I did an interview with her. She actually married a narcissist, and he almost tried to destroy her. She was a widow with my dad, and he came into her life, and it was a whole year of foolishness, and she wrote a book. I encouraged her to write a book. So I'm gonna let me see if I could put it in the comments. But I had her on if you want to go look at that episode, because they're definitely out here trying to destroy people. Here it goes. Give me 1 second. Okay, I don't think it copied. This is the name of the book. I'll put it up because it didn't copy the link. But if you type that in Amazon, it'll come right up. And her name is Donna Mann, Mann. So I'll have her back on, and we're gonna actually talk about women narcissists, because we were actually under one at a church. That's a whole other. But yeah, so I want to talk about the diversity and inclusion. Like I said, my short that I posted over the weekend got to over 3,000 views. I had to delete all the nasty comments, but what I was saying in that short was, we're going to have to get to a point as Black women collectively to support each other with our own personal funds, meaning we have to fund our own diversity and inclusion projects, because they are cutting them left and right, from the states. They're no longer, the states, some of them are no longer going to fund anything that has to do with that. And I had a whole episode about it. But we have to start working smarter and not harder. And what do I mean by that? We're going to, it's sad that I'm saying this because we should already have this, but we're going to have to set up networks to fund each other's projects. So over the weekend, this past weekend, before this one, I went to Virginia, where I'm from, and they did a book workshop based off of my book that had to do with African art. They paid for the books. The kids got their own personal signed book. We did an art craft, and it was done. These are the things that I'm talking about. We're going to have to fund ourselves. They're not going to give handouts anymore. The end of last year, a lot of my, appearances, workshops, everything got cut from these nonprofits, because they first of all, they lied and said, people aren't signing up, but they weren't really promoting it. There was a change. There was definitely a shift and a change in the mood. They were no longer excited about bringing, people like me in anymore. And I noticed it. I observed it. And I was like, okay, something's going on. Something is going on. And so what I want to suggest and make like a clarion call to Black women and, all other people that want to support our projects independently. We're going to have to use our own money. We're going to have to use our own money. We're going to have to, come together and really support each other. And it's sad that they're cutting these type of things out of the school. Like I it's okay if you target us, but I'm just saying, if the children are affected now, the children are affected. And once the children get affected, it's like I get even more upset. So they're not able, like these underdeserved kids, even the kids that do have, the luxuries to be in the rooms with people like me, they are having to go the extra mile, the parents, to bring them to people that don't struggle. Like every Black person does not struggle. Every Black woman does not struggle. Every Black woman doesn't want to be the savior to everyone. There are people doing things, a variety of things that are healthy, not toxic. I think sometimes we talk way too much about trauma and all. When are we going to be healed? A lot of kids, some of the kids don't even know what trauma is because they have both of their parents. We can't write off everybody like as the same. And we have to do different things, and we have to stop speaking to the struggle so much. Let's just support each other. Let's just support each other. Oh, sorry, I'm missing your comments. Bible is real, church is false. Scripture says we are scattered across the corners of the earth. I'm Ukrainian. I look white, but I'm but I'm not. White people hate me. Nonprofits are white devil run. Nonprofits, I'm gonna have to do an episode about nonprofits too, because the stuff that I found out, I mean, they're not doing the work of the Lord. I'll put it like you just said. Um, I'm supporting. I've been preaching this so long. Support each other. Thank you. Are you calling me? Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. So we have to support each other. I hope you subscribed and you keep up with what I'm doing. Yeah, I used to work for a church that was white based, Caucasian based. Thank you. So yeah, we have a lot of work to do, and we're gonna have to work, we're gonna have to get wisdom on how to fund our projects. Like, we're just going to have to. It's not something that we can just take 10, 15 years to do. Like, we don't have time like that. And I really wish people would stop being sleep about a lot of these things. And it's just important. Like, it's important. So I am off of here for today at least, but thank you for tuning in. Again, subscribe. In my description, I actually created a private community, because we never know what could happen. Facebook could go out tomorrow. All these things that we get could go out tomorrow. So I did put in the description community that I just created. They just approved it. So if nobody's in there, that's fine. But you can also support this independent platform on there. And you could also support by donating. This stuff takes lights, Wi-Fi, all this stuff. So I'm just, if you want to buy me a coffee, that's fine. My website is in my description as well, and you can read up on all the things that I do. But I will be back with some more. Thank you for tuning in, Renata. You can look in my, again, at the, it's a few episodes behind that I have my mom on. So if you want to look at that, it's about narcissists. And yeah, we will pray for each other. So talk to you all later and have a good evening. Bye.